listening to Peak One Sports.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Sports Page on the Peak One Sports Network. I'm Ashton, sitting here with Chris and Dan. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much, man. Just been a busy week. Just got back from Kansas City, traveling around a little bit. So, just kind of, just settled down finally. Glad to get back on with you guys.
Nice. Dan, you just got back from somewhere as well, too.
Yeah, when Cozumel, shout out one of our viewers, one of my best friends, Johnny, had a bachelor party, and so we took a cruise out there. And after I got off the incubator, I got a little bit of a cold here. I'm trying to fight off, but I think I'll be all right. But ready to talk some sports news with you guys. How you doing, Ashton?
Man, it's been such a busy week. It's been moving kind of slow. It's one of those weeks. It's not like everything's been busy, everything's going fast. It seems like we've missed a show. Have we missed a show? I don't feel like we.
I thought we did one last week.
We did one. It just feels like we haven't done this in a while. I'm not sure.
And it does, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Anyways, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page at Peak One Sports. Thank you for listening. If you are listening to the podcast form of this show, go ahead and hit that follow button. This episode is brought to you by Betalytics. Don't bet with your gut. Check out Betalytics and get help making your picks using their AI algorithms. Use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter. Now, guys, we have a pretty common theme for this show, and it's going to be highly paid quarterbacks. A few quarterbacks here. We're going to start off talking about Arch Manning at Texas, who might. I know players in general, college players haven't been being paid for very long, but he's obviously the most expensive third-string quarterback ever
in history. Yeah,
for sure.
And he is probably for that reason he's opting out to be in the new college. Is it EA Sports College Football?
I think it's college football 25.
It's not NCAA anymore. It's college football.
Yeah.
But he's opting out, and I know Dan has a lot of information on that.
To be honest, I feel like it worked out exactly the way I would have thought it would go, and I mean, the way I probably would have done it as well. Arch even kind of came out saying that he didn't want to be put in the game as a backup. And if I'm being completely honest, if I'm just speculating a little bit, I feel like a lot of people would have just bumped him up to starter in the game.
Definitely.
And Arch kind of said he was a little more focused on his football stats than his Madden stats, his on the field stats than his off the field stats. And I got to commend the kid for it. And, just like you were saying, Ashton, I happened to look this up, but according to ON3, Arch Manning is the number 2 played NIL player in football and number 5 overall, making $2.8 million. The kid doesn't need $600 and a copy of a video game.
I just think it'd be cool to be in a video game, though. I mean,
I agree. It definitely immortalizes you.
I mean, I guess that's
you want to be put in as a backup.
Yeah, that would be the thing, because there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing he has to do. Just opt in. But I guess I understand.
He threw a handful of passes last year. He rushed less than a handful of times. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you really want to be put into a video game after you did that? Or do you want to be put into this game maybe next year, the next version of the game, when you're the starter, when you've actually established yourself as like the guy at Texas, instead of just this unproven backup with a name? I'm not trying to say that he's not going to be, a great quarterback, but I think there's a lot of hype around, who he is and kind of the legacy that he's been born from.
Yeah.
And, people are anticipating, some great things out of him. I don't hate the kid for being like, you know what, like, let's just wait. And especially when you don't need it. And here's what's also crazy, right? Quinn Ewers, who's coming back to Texas for the 2024 season, gets paid less than Arch does. He's number four in football, number 7 overall, with 1.9 million. But Arch Manning, just off his name alone, is making a ton of money in NIL deals. $600 and a copy of a video game is just not. I don't feel like it's incentive enough, and especially when you feel like you haven't done anything to like earn it or prove yourself in that situation. And I mean, let's be honest too. I will not be surprised to see people playing this game and like creating a player named Arch Manning and going and taking that
You can just do what
that
we
spot in
did
Texas.
back
Whatever.
in the
Yeah.
day. We would auto generate the names and then go online,
Change
get
them.
their, and change at
Right.
least the main players.
Yeah. To Reggie Bush, to Vince Young.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
see it all the time.
Those were the
Yeah.
days, man.
Yeah. Man.
Moving to NFL, Russell Wilson, the Denver Broncos. I'll say they have
Man.
agreed with the Denver Broncos made the decision to cut Russell Wilson just a few years into his 5-year, $242 million deal. A situation where the Broncos traded for him, giving up 3 starters and 5 draft picks, including 2 first-round picks. Denver,
2 first round, 2 second round, and a 5th.
Yeah, Denver's going to have $85 million of dead cap space over the next 2 seasons. I guess they get to pick which season takes the brunt of it. That's the biggest dead cap hit in NFL history. It more than doubles number 2 and number 3. Of course, being Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers, the other ones. Theirs was like $40 million each. So combine them, and then you get the biggest dead cap hit.
And you still don't get Russell's 85. Yeah,
that's a 10. Yeah, I figured, man. That's. I knew there was a bad trade from the jump, but I thought Russell Wilson would kind of at least come in and be, move the needle a little bit. But I've always kind of saw Russell Wilson as like I don't want to call him like a bus driver, because he did carry some of those Seattle teams whenever the Legion of Boom left, and he was kind of there by himself. But man, that's tough. That's tough. It's I don't know, man.
Yeah, he's now the second. It's the second team he's gone with where the coach was picked over him.
Mm-hmm.
The restructure that they gave him was just insane, considering the fact that, I mean, when Denver traded for him, Russ had played 10 seasons in Seattle at that point. You know what I mean? And they were not like easy seasons. He ran a lot. He took a lot of big hits.
Yeah, he did.
Like, and I mean, and he competed in 2 Super Bowls. I mean, they tried to make them, the big time play guy in the worst turnover for New England, or well, best for New England, but and then he's got the one win. But I mean, he did a lot of work in Seattle for 10 years, and then the fact that like he still had 2 years on that contract when he came into Denver, and they still gave him the 5-year extension, was foolish. On top of the fact that they traded away so much in trades and players just to get him, and they got nothing in return. They got a 4th round pick and Russell Wilson.
Nothing, man.
And then they went 5-2 that first season, 8-9 last season. On paper, Russell Wilson is, I mean, he's still I'm going to say like a mid-grade quarterback. He's still a starting quarterback in the
16,
NFL.
17, I think. Yeah, probably around
yeah,
that.
I mean, put him with a good team.
There.
He was with Denver, who Sean Payton basically destroyed the head coach he took over for, thinking they should have been able to do more. And I guess he did do a little bit more, but it was nothing. I think they won a couple of games in a row, and people started saying, hey, I think Denver's going to make a run in the playoffs, and nothing. Not that Sean Payton's not a good coach. I think he's a great coach, but he's kind of in the same arena right now with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. It was like, so who was it? Who went off of who? And luckily luckily for Sean Payton, that Drew Brees didn't go to another team and succeed like Tom Brady did. It's hard to tell because that's all Sean Payton's success is in Seattle, is in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's tough. They're kind of like the same person, but like, as in their respective fields, they have the one ring, and they're deemed as like the star coach and the star quarterback, but it's like no one really, I mean, they kind of teeter on both sides.
I compare Sean Payton with Mike McCarthy. where
McCarthy,
they've had a
again,
Hall of Fame quarterback for most of their career, and they have one ring
hmm
out of it.
yeah,
A lot
that's
of
a long.
wins, a lot of playoff appearances, and one ring.
Hmm
Um, and then obviously it's very dramatic to just cut Russell Wilson because you're not gonna get a better quarterback this year. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe for the future, maybe if you draft one, but um, for this year, Russell Wilson's probably the closest you're going to get to having a functional quarterback. But
hmm
obviously, it didn't work out with him and Sean Payton. You could see time and time again, Payton was, um, for lack of a better word, just embarrassing him, treating him less than an adult.
yeah,
Um,
Oh, for sure. The little screaming match they had on the sideline and
commenting on his
everything. And
personal life and things, which I understand that, but
hmm
commenting publicly about it, that's something you pull your quarterback aside and
yeah,
tell him privately if you have an issue with that.
yeah,
right. Yeah, behind closed doors and everything. But I mean, honestly, just for the money alone, this first year dead money is 35 million. That's number 3 in like all time dead money.
And then
I
you're
would
gonna
almost tell
get
you, like,
even
just
more the
bite
next.
the bullet and keep him, and even, like, try and draft a quarterback this year that you can
Yeah,
develop, like, under Russell Wilson for a season or 2.
hmm
But, for the money, like, I don't feel like Russell Wilson, I mean, it has their last 2 seasons really been, like, indicative or, like, worth the price tag that you're paying,
yeah,
for Russell Wilson? Like, no, not at all. Like, you definitely wanted and expected more out of this, especially when you brought Russell Wilson in
hmm
expecting him to be like your um Peyton Manning kind of esque replacement, like you expected him to bring in this like next era of, Bronco football. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just not really working out that way. And I mean, that sucks and that's frustrating and everything. But for the money and everything that you've got it put into him for this horse, man, ride it, like it just,
yeah,
what a hit.
yeah. I think how much of a factor do you think the Chiefs winning had to do with that? Because that's, now it's back to back in the AFC West, and it seems like they were just kind of falling further and further away from the pack. Like I I think that had a lot to do with it. I feel like
yeah,
that's tough seeing your division rival get 2 rings, and then
yeah.
you're
But
you're
at
here
the
with
same time, look at the rest of the division. Where a couple of years ago we
Yeah.
thought this was the best division in football, and now
yeah
you have the
the
Raiders just basically
Raiders,
skidding off. The Chargers are huge
hmm
disappointments,
yeah.
and that like you have the opportunity to,
That's a possible place he
yeah,
could go.
yeah,
That's a possible place Russell could go.
Right.
um,
And what a great
yeah,
way for him
true,
to just stick it to the Broncos
Hmm
and play for cheap, like
Yeah,
he could play for pennies on the dollar for those teams because the Broncos are already paying him $35 million
throw it to
for the
Devontae
year.
Adams. Yeah,
Yeah.
have a receiver. He has a solid defense. I don't know. That'd be a good spot. I was thinking there or probably Pittsburgh maybe. Uh, be a good spot for him. But
yeah,
That'd be a very interesting
yeah,
matchup too.
it'd be good. Yeah, it'd be good to
I
see
think Atlanta and Washington also have big
Atlanta.
question marks
hmm
under the center. So
yeah,
definitely some landing spaces and everything for
Yeah,
Russell
he'll
Wilson.
find a
And I
job. He's
mean,
gonna have a job for sure.
yeah, and he could play for a low price tag and everything because he's already getting paid.
hmm
Go go take your pick. Like I'm
hmm
sure a handful of teams would probably at least talk to him.
Yeah, at least you
So
got to bring him
I
in.
think I think he'll have options.
Hmm
yeah. He may even hold out and see if anybody gets injured in preseason, possibly. I
hmm
don't know
Yeah.
that's kind of a risk because then you're missing training camp and preseason yourself. But I mean,
Right.
at that age,
Well,
does
with
it
free
matter?
agency coming up, you got
Yeah,
free agency coming up next week, and Kirk Cousins still hasn't settled his contract with the Vikings yet, and Baker Mayfield's also kind of uh, behind on his contract negotiations, I guess. And
Yeah,
I mean, I would think both of those quarterbacks would stay in their respective locations. I think the Vikings have seen what it's like to be without Kirk Cousins, and there's not a whole lot of extra quarterbacks out there. But I mean, if Russell Wilson is a possible, negotiation tactic to get, Kirk Cousins to
yeah.
take
They're
a better deal or something is a very possible. And Kirk Cousins has kind of said before, it's not like about the money, but it's about what the money
Yeah.
represents. But I
Mhm.
think that just tells me like he's looking to get paid, so
Definitely.
um and I don't hate him for it. So, kind of whoever values you and what you bring to the table, go ahead and take advantage of that. Man's been doing it for 12 years or
Yeah.
something now. So, and I mean, I think he's talented enough to be able to, hold, the majority of the power in the negotiation of his contract. So,
Yeah.
we'll kind of see what happens there. But I would think Tampa Bay would, almost stay pretty loyal to Baker Mayfield. He created great rapport with his team, and with the
Yeah.
super heavy incentive contract that he signed, and then went and blew it out of the water. I mean, you'd almost think that they would kind of offer him maybe a
Yeah.
2-3 year deal and keep him around. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. We got another week of patience to have before free agency hits. So
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
reaching his potential too. First overall,
he's really peaking.
I feel like he's kind of getting his groove and kind of, okay, now, I'm a Heisman Trophy winner. I was first overall. I this is what I'm supposed to do. And he showed it. Yeah, I was very impressed with him.
For sure. He
Mhm.
seems to like mesh really well with Tampa Bay and like
Yeah.
the football team, the atmosphere, the location. It
Yeah.
like it all just seems to like really kind of fit his
Yeah.
personality and his style and everything.
Yeah. And you
So
never
it's been kind of cool to see him flourish
yeah.
there.
And that's a lot of pressure too. We probably can't even realize how much pressure it was following Tom Brady and, coming in and doing what he did. So, that's
Well,
something
and
I
especially
really
being
want.
undervalued already coming off the Browns,
Mhm.
like it just I think there were plenty of question marks there that were like, is he more talented than the Browns were kind of showing more or less, and I,
Yeah.
I think he I think he helped erase a lot of that doubt. So it'll be
Yeah.
fun to see him keep going.
And for a team that will probably could be in the market for a new quarterback in the next year or so, we move to the Dallas Cowboys,
Mm.
where Jerry Jones has already said that it's unlikely for Dak to get an extension this year or a new contract. But Dak is confident that a deal will get done, being very optimistic about it. Dak, of course, going into the final year of his deal. He's got a $59.4 million cap hit for 2024, but he has been asking, or agent, like the negotiations has his contract to go to $60 million a year. So not a big difference. I know the Cowboys can push off some of his cap hit this year if they were to give him an extension, because Jerry Jones, obviously, everyone's all up in arms and making fun about him, saying the Cowboys are going all in this year and really haven't done much yet. But they have about $4 million heading into free agency next week. So, what are y'all's thoughts on what's going to happen with Dak? Are they going to stay pat, just play out the final year of his contract, or what do y'all guys think?
Yeah. I think it would I feel like an extension will happen. Um you just have to go back and just look around the league and kind of see like the competition, who would be available, and there's no one really better than Dak Prescott that would either be available, or because everybody above Dak is probably staying at their respective teams for the foreseeable future. So
Yeah.
um I mean, you would have to re-sign them and well extend them, right? I'm
I mean, you have this year. You could just stay where you're at, let him
Yeah.
play it out.
Yeah, let them play it out, and I'm sure there'll be some sort of like re-sign or new contract at the end of the year, unless he just stinks it up, and then and then you just try to
Yeah.
rebuild. But I think this is. I mean, I said this last year that it was the best time for them to win. There was, everything was in place. Dak had an MVP year. He finished third or fourth in MVP voting, and stunk it up in the playoffs. But um, I mean, I would say running back with that team and just see, just that what were they, the third seed, second seed, third seed?
They were the
Um,
2 seed.
yeah, yeah, the 2 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get much better than that. And, one game, you stink it up. Hopefully they can come back and, Dak will prove himself and kind of get a new contract. But that's kind of what I would see.
No, man, I can't do that. Nope, no way. I'm Team Jerry on this. All right, he's got a full year left on his contract. There's no need to actually give him an extension right now. Or
Mhm.
the only reason I would do any of this is if we can restructure his contract in some sort of way that gives us more cap space this season to go acquire players to help strengthen the team and change our playoff run
Mhm.
going forward. Uh,
They need
Dak
something.
is Dak is 1-3 in the playoffs over the last 3 years. So for this contract, he's got one win in the playoffs, and this last season was a career season that he put up, and he didn't even get a playoff win. Like, I am not
Yeah.
on board with giving this guy a new contract or paying him any more money in any way, considering that he's just not delivered anything that we were paying him to give us, which were playoff wins and a Super Bowl. Like, it's not
Mhm.
there was no question mark about like what we were trying to do with Dak when we signed this contract. We were trying to go win a Super Bowl, and guess what? We probably should have,
Probably
but
you should
but it,
have.
yeah, but it didn't happen, and I
Mhm.
can't help it be like it's kind of a big like fault of Dax. You know, I'm just not willing to do it. And if I'm a betting man, considering that he just came off a career season, I'd be willing to bet that, considering contract restructures and new deals and everything are usually based off the, previous season stats and everything, I would bet money that Dak is going to go out there and not put up another career season. You know what I mean? Like, the last time he had a season this good was like his sophomore year, I think it was like his next best season, and now he just put up this career season. I'd bet money that when he finishes out next year, unless he wins a Super Bowl, I'm not giving him a better contract than what he just
Mhm.
got, and there's no reason to give it to him a year early. He's got a no trade clause, he's got a no franchise tag clause. He's not going anywhere. He has to
Mhm.
play. So I mean, if he wants the contract that he thinks he deserves and whatever, then he needs to go out there and earn it, and this is the year to do it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, like, I think it's time for Dallas to cut ties and move on and just figure it out, because
Yeah.
he's just not delivering. He's not worth the price we're paying.
What about so if they make it to the NFC Championship game, do you think you would be on board?
That would
It
be a
depends
big
on the
question mark for
situation.
me.
Yeah, it depends
Yeah,
on the whole
like
situation.
how close was the game? How many interceptions did Dak throw? That kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like,
All right, 3 touchdowns, 320 yards, and a pick.
an A pick was the
And
score.
they lose by 6.
When does he throw the pick? I know it shouldn't
Second
matter, but
quarter.
it does. Okay, second
Second
quarter.
quarter.
Oh,
Um,
so it's a almost
it
irrelevant.
all depends. Like, if Dak goes out and has his normal type year, which is above average,
Mhm.
it's like
For
he doesn't blow it out of the water. But if you go back to all of his years outside of this past year, he's an above average quarterback. He goes out, throws
for sure.
33 touchdowns, 11
Ninth, ninth,
interceptions.
ninth best,
You know,
probably.
yeah, has a good season and makes it to NFC Championship game or Super Bowl. It's in my head to that. If he has a great year and makes the NFC Championship game or Super Bowl, like has another year just like this past year where he's in MVP talks, sure, you know, I say let's make something happen. If he has a bad year, regular season, he has to win the Super Bowl before I even consider doing anything. But I'm
Yeah.
on Dan's side. Jerry Jones doesn't have to do anything. Like, as
Mhm.
good as a businessman he is, and deadlines get deals and all this, and unless Dak just wants to take a whole lot less, which I don't say. I mean, if he's at 60 million, how far down does he have to go? We're already complaining about it when he was making 40 million.
Yeah.
And I know TV contracts are raising the cap's going up anyways, but
Mhm.
let him play out the year, because I mean the only thing that I could see it helping is if they extend him, as Dan said, and you get all this cap space to use. If
Mhm.
you extend him and then go out and you're really all
Get a
in,
piece, yeah, get a couple pieces, yeah.
then I I could see that. I'm not against having Dak on this team, because if you don't have him, what do you
What are you gonna get
what
there?
do you
That's what
gonna
that's what I
Oh,
was
for
get?
thinking.
sure. And
But
Yeah.
that's the worst part about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to give Dak
No,
60
yeah,
million for
don't
the next
I'm
3
on
years.
yeah, I'm on your side. I'm on you guys' side as
Whereas
far
in
as
3 years
I
his
I
cap hits
gotta
going to be
see it.
80 million, you
Yeah.
know.
I gotta see it before, you pay him because yeah, I'm on you guys' side as far as that. Whenever I was saying that, I was thinking as far as like what else is out there. Like that's the scary thing. Like Dan, like you just said, um, if you get rid of him, and you cut ties with them, who are you gonna bring in?
You
They
you
have one of the
have
youngest teams in the league.
you have
You know, I
Trey
feel,
Lance. Not that I believe in Trey Lance, but Jerry Jones did give up a pick to get Trey Lance. So in
Trey
Jerry
Lance
Jones'
isn't bad
mind,
either, though. He's
in Jerry Jones' mind, that is an option. Now maybe it's like option D if we're not
I
going
mean,
after Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush, he's a great backup, but
yeah,
he's not the guy.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's probably the same thing. Probably like when Romo was there, and probably thinking the same thing about Dak at that particular point. Maybe I don't know.
but
Yeah, I don't
give
know.
kudos to Dak. Yes, you're an amazing regular season
Right.
quarterback. Let's throw you
Yeah.
made the playoffs 3 straight years. Cowboys haven't
Mhm.
done that in a long time. Mad props, but you have not gotten past the divisional round. Same thing with Romo.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I get it where you don't want to be in that quarterback limbo where you had Testaverde and Brad Johnson and Quincy Carter and Chad
Mhm.
Hutchinson. I understand that, but
Yeah.
and from a business standpoint, from a money standpoint, it still works for Jerry Jones, I guess. But I mean,
Mhm.
maybe he's fine with this as long as the Cowboys are relevant and we're talking about him on our podcast.
Of course. Of
Um,
course.
that Dak
I mean, no
Prescott's
one
good
will ever
enough.
not be talking about the Cowboys. It's like talking
Yeah.
about the Yankees. Like you'll be talking about these teams when you talk about these sports. They'll be around forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, the last 3 years, and provided 2 years ago, 2022, Dak only played 12 games, broke his ankle. But
Yeah.
I mean, they went 12-5 each year, but one win in the playoffs over that time is just it's what you were paying Dak to do, man. It's why you gave him the
Yeah.
contract that he like held out for. You know,
Mhm.
you gave him exactly what he wanted.
I mean, yeah,
And
it's the
honestly, when they
same
were talking
thing
about it, I
as
was like, I don't think he's worth that much. But they gave him the contract he wanted,
Everything.
what's the difference
and
between
he
him and
hasn't.
like Andy Dalton? A few extra stats, and then Andy Dalton never won a playoff game, but Andy Dalton was in the playoffs every year. Yeah, Dak
Yeah.
Prescott got to the second round twice. That's it. You know,
Yeah. Who would you guys rather have, Lamar or Dak?
Lamar. I mean, it depends on the situation. Like, I don't know Lamar's contract
I'm not.
situation, but if you were just trading straight up, like
You
I'd say
would?
find a way to have Lamar. I mean, because I still think there's more upside with Lamar than like
Oh,
we've
okay.
seen
I
the
see what you're
best
saying.
of Dak. You know,
You think
Lamar's
I
so?
been
agree. And
Dak.
with
Dak has a
Dak's,
better arm, but
Because they're pretty
yeah,
much the same in the
Lamar will
playoffs.
run though.
I
We
just
know Dak
that's
can run, but he doesn't, and I don't know that it's the option. I think it's in his head. Like
Lamar
he'll
is
run.
yeah.
he's probably the most explosive player other than probably Tyreek in the league, probably.
Yeah, I don't.
Uh,
I used to
I
think it
think
was
after
Kellen
Dak broke
Moore's
his
thing.
leg
Like
that second time,
don't do design runs for Dak or something. Like just save it for a little. But you've had two different offenses the last 2 years, and he's just not running as much. I think it's Dak that doesn't want to do a bunch of running. Of course, that's how he got hurt and broke his
yeah.
exactly, yeah.
I
ankle.
think
And
he's still got some mental stuff going
yeah,
on about it
And he
after he
ran.
broke his leg
Yeah,
the second
yeah,
time.
yeah.
He just because honestly, I felt like there were a number of situations just this last season where I wish I would have seen Dak run a little bit more, and
yeah,
he just didn't. And I think he's afraid a little bit to do
Hmm.
that. Lamar doesn't have that complex
yeah.
just yet.
Most of Dak's runs are just way out in open field. He's going to run out of bounds. A couple of
Yeah,
times he like bowed up and knocked a guy down, but
Hmm.
um, it's
yeah,
definitely like when he runs, he's not going to try to spin out of anything. He's either going to run into you or run out of bounds.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't. I guess. I mean, obviously, he doesn't want the risk of getting hurt. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into this, but if it was like
Yeah.
Lamar at 60 million or Dak at 40,
You'd have to go Dak.
I don't think Lamar gives you
yeah.
that much bigger of a chance to win a Super Bowl. Like I for sure don't think Dak's the only problem. I think Dak could win a Super Bowl in the right situation. I keep saying that. Obviously, they had the right situation this year.
Yeah.
Outside of their defense just completely going to crap the last couple of weeks into the playoffs.
I mean,
But I don't know.
if we
Baltimore
could
had
get
the best defense, and Lamar Jackson just sucked it up in the AFC Championship game too.
Yeah. Because they
if
have
we could
their records are comparable. That's why I was asking. That's all.
Yeah,
yeah, I think if Dallas could manage to get themselves like a real good like stand-in middle linebacker, somebody that can really kind of take care of that set of the field, and then we really need to shore up that O line.
Yeah.
But other than that, it seems like I feel like Dallas is like just so primed to make another run at it, even with Dak,
Yeah.
But I don't think
Yeah.
there's any real reason to have to give Dak a new contract to like make him feel better about it or anything. It's like, and if anything,
And then,
it would be nice if he did take like a pay cut or something to help us shore up
yeah,
that O line or whatever to secure these wins. I mean, some tough losses against like the 49ers and whatnot in the early the Eagles, but going just losing that first round of the playoffs so often,
yeah,
these last few years and everything, it's been painful, and it's hard not to point the finger at Dak, and especially when you're pointing it at the guy who you would have thought would have led us and run us right through at least that first round, that wild card game of the playoffs this year,
Yeah.
mhm,
and instead he just did not play well and gave the game away, and it's hard not to be like this was his fault. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, and
Yeah.
I'm not paying a guy for that. So I mean, good luck to him, but I feel like Jerry's smart enough to stick to his guns here and just ride it out. You got a full year before you even have to start worrying about that. Hell, maybe he gets lucky and they restructure or give him a deal halfway through the season or something, and based on
yeah,
his performance. But I feel like they would be remiss and mistaken in doing that, considering that like I don't I don't think anybody is necessarily arguing that like the Cowboys have played well the last few years. 12-5 is not a bad record to have in the
yeah,
NFL, but being 1-3 in the playoffs is.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are we talking about here? We can go 12-5 every year for the rest of at the NFL's existence. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
if you're not winning playoff games, no one cares. No one's
Exactly.
talking about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might as well be the Bills in the '90s. Like
Yeah.
you went to 4 Super Bowls, but you didn't win a single one. No one's talking about you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Well, guys, thanks for jumping on and talking expensive quarterbacks. That was unintentional. The unintentional subject of today's show. We'll call it that.
yeah.
But thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow us however you listen to your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. And until next time, see you guys later.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.